let's talk about 5 things that you can do to become more disciplined. Let's go.
Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you.
Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today I want to share with you 5 things that you can do to become more disciplined. So I did a podcast episode a couple of weeks ago that I'm going to link in the top here. If you're on Spotify, you'll find it in the description of the podcast. For me, that was one of the most popular episodes I did. It was talking about the difference between motivation and discipline. I spoke about the fact that people rely too heavily on motivation, but the difference is you're not going to feel motivated all the time. That's when discipline has to kick in. Now, let's talk about what discipline is. Discipline is doing the things you know you need to do when you don't feel like doing it. The problem is discipline has a very negative connotation to it. You talk about disciplining a child when they're younger, or you talk about disciplining a dog so that they learn. All of these things gives a very, very negative connotation to discipline. However, discipline is the highest form of self-love. That's something I really, truly believe, because you have to be disciplined to do the things that are good for you. You have to be disciplined. You don't have to be disciplined to smash cake. You don't have to be disciplined to lie in. You don't have to be disciplined to be lazy. That's easy. Super easy. You have to be disciplined to do the things that you know you need to do that's going to move your life forward, which is the highest form of self-love. So for me, we're going to look into it today about the things that you can actually do to make discipline easier for yourself, because it's not something that you're born with. Discipline is not something that you're born with. It's a perishable skill, which then also means it's a skill you can build up and you can learn. But we aren't taught this. Oh, I'm not disciplined, I'm lazy. No. You haven't developed the skill to be disciplined. You haven't developed it. It's like a muscle. You have to train it. So we'll talk about things you can do with that today. But for me, before we sort of go into this, I want to understand that discipline isn't about being perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's about asking yourself, is this action I'm taking in alignment with my goal, the person I want to be, and where I want to go? Because we've all got that awareness. We've all got that ability to do it. Just stopping and asking ourselves, is this going to help me towards my goal? But we only need to concern ourselves if we're consistently doing the wrong things. Because it's not about perfection. You are going to mess up, and that's okay. But what are you doing the majority of the time? The majority of the time, are you doing the things that are moving you forward? We're going to talk about this as we go into one of the 5 things, but again, that formula, pain plus reflection equals progress. We're going to cover that a lot. So let's get straight into this. Tip number 1, master the small things. Tip number 1 to becoming and developing more discipline is master the small things. So that quote, how you do one thing is how you do everything, and the little things become the big things. So we want to build this house, this amazing house, and the house is our life, this amazing life. Okay, it starts with laying one brick at a time. You've got to lay that one brick perfectly. If you don't lay a brick perfectly, the whole wall becomes wonky. The whole house will then become wonky. It will all fall apart. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Give your best and try and finish everything that you do. The thing is, if you don't finish things, that is then building up the opposite of discipline. You're building up the ability to basically be lazy. You become that person. You build that identity of a person that doesn't finish what they start. And we all know people like that. There's people in my life as I was growing up that said they're going to do something and they start it, they don't finish it. So guess what? That's what I picked up. So guess what I would do? I'd start things and I wouldn't finish them. I wouldn't see them all the way through. So when you start something to the best of your ability, finish it. Because you're telling yourself you are the kind of person that once you start something, you finish it. And that is discipline. Doing the things you know you need to do when you don't feel like doing it. Because again, when you start something, the motivation is high. And as you carry on, the motivation dwindles. That is when discipline has to kick in. Use the little things to finish the big things. Because once you use these little things and you do all the little things perfectly and correctly, guess what? It becomes easier to do the big things because you've already built the discipline with the little things. Develop the mindset of whatever I start, I'm going to finish. Tip number 2, make life easier for yourself by removing the opportunity for distraction. I was a nightmare at this. I still to this day, if I've got something really big and important to do, I will leave this amazing office that I've got and I will go and work in a coffee shop. Why? Because there's so many distractions here. So many distractions. Again, I've got Katie that sits opposite me. I've got the house right there. There's so many things that could distract me and pull my attention away from what I'm trying to do. So if I know that I need to be super, super disciplined, I will remove as much distraction as possible. This also ties into having a plan so that you know what needs to be done. So then you limit wasted time. Make life easier for yourself. Remove things in your environment that will move you away from your goal and distract you. For example, if your goal is fat loss, remove as much naughty food in your house. Again, don't have shelves stacked full of crisps and chocolate. Again, if you know you've got big projects to do, try and remove the TV, to unplug the TV, whatever it is, just do something to make it easy for yourself. If you know that kids are a massive distraction for you, can you talk to your partner about taking the kids out? Or can you remove yourself from the environment where your kids are and make sure they're looked after? Again, is noise a big thing for you? Just ask yourself, what is taking my willpower? Because remember, willpower is also a perishable skill. Willpower is like a battery. And if your willpower is being constantly used to stop yourself from getting distracted, guess what? That makes it harder for you to stick to the task you're doing because you're stopping yourself. Oh, no, I can't get distracted, can't get distracted. That's your attention. Think about your attention. This is all about attention here. It's all about attention. So think about a magnifying glass. If you get a magnifying glass on the sun, if I move, your attention is the magnifying glass. If I move the magnifying glass around, the sun's rays have no power. That's your attention. But once you lock it in one place, bam, the power magnifies. And that's the same with you when you're trying to do something. You've got to give it your full attention. Your attention is one of the most powerful things that you have. Be more intentional with your time and your environment that you spend your time in. Be more intentional. It's your intent. Is this environment conducive? Now, I understand that you may not be able to remove the kids. You may not have a babysitter. I understand. I may understand you can't get rid of all the junk food because, again, you have kids. I understand all this stuff. But there is 100% something or things that you can do to make your environment better for you. And again, don't bypass the part I said about planning. Planning is a key thing as well. It could have been 2 points. Planning your day makes it so much easier to be disciplined because you know what you're doing with your time. And again, things are going to pop up. But again, is this important? Is this thing that's popped up, is it moving me towards my goal or away from my goal? Ask yourself that question. Number 3, do not shame yourself. When you mess up, allow yourself some grace. Don't allow yourself to beat yourself up. Don't allow yourself to bully yourself. Don't allow yourself to go down that negative thought spiral. And if you do notice you get caught in negative thought spirals, check out the video I did on getting out of negative thought patterns, because that was something that really, really used to mess me up all the time. Because when things don't go to plan, it's about making the small adjustments and asking yourself, right, what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Pain plus reflection equals progress. Pain. When you mess up, it does suck. Especially if you've really built yourself up this time. No, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Okay, it's going to suck, but you have to reflect. You reflect by asking yourself the difficult questions. What could I have done differently? How could I do it? Next time, what would I do? Who do I need to become to make sure this gets finished? And that's how you make the progress. It's all about progress. Failing forward. That's what it's all about. It's making the small little adjustments over time. That is how you make progress. Before I go into tip number 4, if you've enjoyed these first 3 tips, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe on Spotify. On YouTube. If you're on Spotify, don't forget to give us a follow and a review, and same on Apple Podcast as well. Podcasts come out every single Tuesday and every single Thursday. Tip number 4, just get going. Motivation will get you going. We said this at the start. But when that motivation dwindles, you struggle to actually get going in the first place. So a little task that I use, I do this when I get in my bed sometimes, is the countdown and go. It sounds really easy. Literally all you do is 3, 2, 1, go. Now, sometimes I use stronger words than go, but that's all I do. You just give yourself a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then just get going. Move and do something in that direction, because once you start it, it's easier. So if you're sat on the sofa and you know you've got to go for a walk, go to the gym, 3, 2, 1, up, go. Don't allow yourself any time to compromise. I don't want to go into the ice bath. 3, 2, 1, bam, down, straight I go. Count down and just get up and take that first step, or just do that one action that's going to get you going, because it's easier to stay in motion once you've got in motion to start off with. Again, it's like pushing a car. Once that car's in motion, once you start pushing it and starts to move, it stays in motion. It's that first initial thing to get going. So don't allow yourself time to think, because when you give yourself that time to think, that is when you talk yourself out of it. 3, 2, 1, go. And just go. Just don't think about it. Just do. Final tip. Just make it easier. Just make it easier. We are the ones that make things hard. Life does not have to be hard. So ask yourself, how can I make this easier? Because often we just make things harder and harder and harder, and we cause the struggle ourselves. But just by asking yourself, how can I make this easier? Guess what? It allows you to remove the roadblocks. It allows you to remove your own roadblocks. And that is ultimately what we're trying to do here. We're trying to remove roadblocks. Because when we're motivated, we will smash through those roadblocks. But when motivation dwindles, that's when discipline kicks in. But it's about removing the roadblocks that will keep that discipline going. And once you do this, it's about building the habit. Because again, discipline is a habit. So ask yourself, what things can you do? If you've got any other tips, pop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. For me, discipline is something that I've really, really had to work on. It's absolutely changed my life. Don't rely on motivation. Build up your discipline. I promise you it will change every single area of your life. Till next time, take it easy.